You're listening to Simply the Best Sports Take, the best podcast breaking down the best stuff in sports with host Sean Bingham. His takes are so good, he dropped the mic, but then you wouldn't be able to hear him, and that would suck.
Welcome into STB Sports Take, Simply the Best Sports Podcast. I am your host, Sean Bingham. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts. We are there. Thank you for being here. Please hit that subscribe button, whatever platform you are on. If you are not yet subscribed, please do. It is much appreciated. Also, guys, if you want to comment here on YouTube, or if you want to leave a review on Apple or Google or whatever podcast platform you're on, I would love that. Please share this with your friends. We are now in August. Yes, it is August. This is actually my birth month. My birthday is August 15th, and today is August 2nd, so I got less than 2 weeks. Crazy, and it's a big one, guys. I don't even want to say what birthday this is, but because it is a big one. It starts with a 4 and ends with a 0. So not super excited about this one, but it'll be fine. I hope your weekend was better than mine. I actually had a great weekend, and then I woke up this morning to realize that maybe my weekend hadn't been that good, because last night we had a humongous rainstorm in Utah. I'm talking like the worst rain I've ever seen. And I should have thought of this last night. I'm really bugged that I did not. My basement got a little bit flooded. It wasn't too bad, but I've got a basement apartment, and it's got its own entry, and there's a drain, right there next to the door on the outside, entrance there. And it just couldn't keep up. It was raining so hard and so much water was coming down. The drain couldn't keep up with how much water was coming. And so it started to get above the door frame line on the outside, and then it was seeping in through the door, and not good. Not a good situation. So pretty bummed out about that. I cleaned it all up. I've got some fans down there. I got a guy coming in a couple hours. I started to take the baseboards off myself, and I was like, I'm going to wreck the whole thing. I'm just going to stop now before I ruin anything, and let somebody that knows what they're doing better and has the proper tools and all that come check it out. So got a guy coming in a few hours. Hopefully it's not a huge deal. Pretty bummed out about it. I actually have a freaking flood sensor down there, and the battery was dead. So check your batteries. It's so annoying to think about, even as I'm sitting here relating the story to you guys. So annoying. I have everything in place to prevent this, and the battery was dead. The simplest of things. But anyway, hopefully it's not a big deal. I'll let you know on the next podcast. But other than that, I had a great weekend. It was really fun. A lot of big stuff happening in the NBA. You guys have noticed I focus pretty heavily on the NBA. It's been NBA season. Once the NFL and college football get underway, I'll definitely be talking about those a lot more than I currently do. Those off seasons are not as fun to discuss. I am going to eventually talk about potential realignment in college football, I promise. But today, again, I want to talk about the NBA. Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi's kind of losing me. That's going to be the main underlying story here of this podcast. Kawhi was this guy who came out. I watched him in college, okay? So he played against Jimmer Fredette in BYU. He went to San Diego State. They were in the same conference. I was living in Provo at the time, which is just 10 miles from where I am currently. And I actually was neighbors with Jimmer Fredette. I was only a couple years removed from college myself. And I was just a diehard BYU basketball fan. I'm still a fan. I just don't care as much about college sports as I do professional sports. But the point is, I watched Kawhi Leonard even as a freshman and sophomore at San Diego State. So I've been following his basketball career for quite some time now. And, we watch him come into the league and do really, really well. He's a role player with the Spurs. He gets a Finals MVP, when nobody saw it coming, but he did deserve it. It was very unexpected. It was very deserved, but very unexpected. The Spurs beat LeBron James and the Heat in the finals, and Kawhi, not Tony Parker, not Tim Duncan, not Manu Ginobili, Kawhi Leonard takes home the MVP award. Very, very cool stuff. So we then see him get Defensive Player of the Year, and we see him get it again, and we see him go through a weird injury where he kind of comes across like a diva, but we're not quite sure. Goes to Toronto, okay, definitely a place he did not want to be, and in his first year gets a title there. He's Finals MVP again, so now he's got 2 championships, 2 Finals MVPs, 2 Defensive Player of the Years, and he is like all the talk in the NBA. It was Kawhi's league, okay? This is like 2 years ago. It's Kawhi's league. That offseason 2 years ago was just like, it was lit. It was like, what's going to happen? Kawhi's controlling everything. Is he going to go to the Lakers? Is he going to stay in Toronto? Is he going to go to the Clippers? And the Clippers seemed like the most unlikely of the three. And then it shifted to where it was like, okay, it's definitely LA. But it felt like Toronto still somehow had a better chance than the Clippers. Well, out of nowhere, he signs with the Clippers. Clippers make a deal with the Thunder. And Paul George ends up on the Clippers as well. And the whole league just caught fire. It was wild stuff. So, and Kawhi was just this puppeteer. You know, he was just controlling the whole league. Everything that took place. It seemed like he just was sticking it to every star. He was on top of the NBA world. Okay. Well, now 2 years later, after collecting massive paychecks and having 2 early exits and letdowns in the NBA playoffs, Kawhi Leonard is injured again, and it looks like he's ready to do the same thing all over again. He's totally injured, just had major knee surgery on his ACL, most likely won't play next year. There's a chance he plays towards the end of the year, but with it being Kawhi Leonard, let's be real, there's a very good chance he just chooses to sit out, because I think as it is right now, he's going to miss like the first 50 games as like a minimum. And with it being Kawhi Leonard, you know his rehab's a lot slower. He's much more cautious. He's just that. He's much more cautious. So very good chance that he sits out the entire season, kind of like Kevin Durant just did with the Nets last year. And, you know, eases his way back into the season after that. Well, he has $36 million player option for this upcoming season, and he's declining it. Kawhi Leonard has declined his player option. I mean, what's going on? $36 million. And it's obvious what he's doing. He's betting on himself. He's betting that, you know what? I don't need this $36 million. Kevin Durant just got a massive contract by opting out with Golden State after his Achilles injury. He opted out, said, you know what? Everybody knows I'm not going to play a single game next year, and I'm still going to get a long-term max deal elsewhere, so I'm going to take that. Kawhi Leonard's doing something similar. We all assume he's going to stay in Los Angeles just because that's his home, that's what he loves, that's where he wants to be. He's 30 years old. He definitely has 4, 5, 6 seasons left in him, but realistically, probably 4. He's injury-prone, even though many would say he doesn't really have serious injuries. His mind thinks he has serious injuries. That was the whole bad divorce with San Antonio Spurs, as they just weren't on board with what he felt was a serious injury. Doctors were saying he was okay. So, you know, team trainers were like, he's fine. But he was like, no, I'm not. And it's weird. It's a weird situation. So, but he's doing it again now with the Clippers. The guy sits out 25% of the games as it is, even 30% of the games as it is. And he's had 2 early exits in the first round, despite having another superstar alongside him and great role players after that. Huge disappointment in season 1. You know, small disappointment this last year. He got hurt, and that was just unfortunate. You might have seen the Clippers win the title, honestly, had he stayed healthy. He didn't, though. He gets hurt again. His conditioning isn't ever quite there come playoff time because he's been sitting out for 25-30% of the games in the regular season. So I just don't feel like you're getting your money's worth with Kawhi Leonard. If you're the Los Angeles Clippers, like, you're kind of in a tough spot because you don't have much of a choice. You can't just let him go, right? You have to make him a big offer. He's your whole franchise right now. And we know he's capable of winning titles. We know he's capable of being a finals MVP because he's done it twice. He's done it 2 times. And he's still in his prime. He's 30 years old. So you're in a tough spot if you're the Clippers, but I'd be pretty upset. If I'm Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, I'm just like, man, this sucks. We got to pay this guy all this money. He's not going to play next year. And we don't know what he's really capable of long-term anyway, because we just saw what he did the last 2 seasons with Paul George at his side. The Nets are stacked. The Lakers are getting more stacked. The Suns are up and coming. The Jazz are up and coming. The Mavericks are up and coming. The Bucks are obviously defending champs. So how good are your chances of winning a title with Kawhi Leonard at this point? Honestly, I'd say they're not good. I think the chances of the Clippers winning a title with Kawhi Leonard are getting worse and worse, especially with him this next season probably not going to play. Now, they're going to be an interesting spot because they'll get 50, 60 games into the season. They'll have 20 games left. That's a pretty good size of games. That's a pretty good amount of games to get back into shape. He'll be doing rehab before that, of course, but get back into shape, get back into game shape, gameplay, get your chemistry back with your teammates, kind of work your way back into the lineup and the rotation and all that stuff. Get through the first round. By the second round, you should be ready to fully rock and roll. He's got the time to do it. I just think you're going to see him choose not to. And so what are the Clippers going to do? They're probably going to sign him to another deal. He'll probably get a long-term deal. If he wants a long-term deal, he would get it. But the salary cap's always moving. And so there's all this talk now that he's going to do a one-year deal with a player option for the second year, which means if he did that, he'd just do his 1 year that he has right now for $36 million, and then he'd have to do the same thing all over again next year. And if he doesn't play this year, you will have just paid him tens of millions of dollars, likely more than the 36 because he could get more by signing a new deal. So you'll pay him like 40 plus million to not play at all and then do the exact same thing to you next year. Crazy. That is crazy. But that's what he's going to do to the Clippers. I think that's what you're going to see Kawhi Leonard do to the Clippers. I think you're going to see him take even more money than the $36 million by just a few $1 million. He'll take even more money than the $36 million, and then he'll do this exact same thing 1 year from now. It'll be a player option. He will decline it because he will have not even played at all, not a one single game. He'll show that he's healthy. You know, there'll be some footage that gets leaked or whatever. He doesn't have social media, but it'll get out there that he's fully healthy. He's back. His knee's stronger than ever. And he's only 31. He's Kawhi Leonard, two-time MVP, Finals MVP, two-time champion, two-time Defensive Player of the Year. And everyone's going to line up to pay him the max. Everyone will. And so then he'll get a long-term deal. He'll decline and get a long-term deal. So that's what Kawhi's going to do. So I'm kind of over Kawhi Leonard. He's a little bit of a diva. And I really like this. I still do like him, but I'm just over him as like a superstar. He's just not at that same level. He's not. If I'm building a franchise, I want guys like LeBron James. I want guys like Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Those are the types of guys that I want on my team playing for me. Steph Curry, guys that are going to give me their all night in and night out. Steph obviously had some injuries he dealt with as well. LeBron a little bit lately too, but LeBron's been Iron Man his whole career. Kevin Durant, up until this Achilles injury, he was very durable as well. I think they've just been extremely cautious. I would definitely take a guy like Kevin Durant. Kawhi is just a guy that he pretty much perfected and invented load management. And now he's just going to load manage his way through an entire season and load manage his way to a 9-figure contract. And he's going to collect $40-80 million along the way. It's insane. And what has he really done for that money? Just lost in the second round, lost in the conference finals. Whoop-de-doo, So I'm kind of over Kawhi Leonard. If I'm a Clippers fan, I'm pretty upset right now because that's what I think you're going to see happen. I think he'll stay in Los Angeles. And, yeah, it's almost like they should try and trade him the second he opts back in or something. I don't know. But then he won't do it because he'll have a no-trade clause. He'll have a 1-year deal. It won't even matter. He's not going to play, so nobody's going to take him in a trade. From a business standpoint, he's very, very smart, honestly. Kawhi Leonard is very, very smart. He's doing it his way. He's playing in the city that he wants to play in. He's playing the number of games that he wants to play. I mean, he's choosing his work day. He's choosing his schedule. He's choosing the city that he lives in. He's choosing everything. And he's dictating how much money he makes. And he's playing the system perfectly. He's talented enough he can get away with it. There's enough teams out there that are desperate he can get away with it. I personally just don't like it. Okay, moving on. Another guy that's declining his player option is Chris Paul, CP3. He has a $44 million player option this next season with the Suns, and he is declining it. $44 million. The guy's 36 years old, I believe, going into his 17th season and declining a $44 million option. But guess what? He'll get like a 3-year deal from somebody that'll be worth more than the 44. After this next season, I think you're probably going to see that CP3's value plummets quickly. He might even likely know that. So I don't think you're going to see him get $44 million next year, but I think you're going to see him get a lot more than that over the next 3 years than he would if he played out this $44 million and then tried to get a new contract at the end of next season. He wants to secure that long-term money. So he'll probably get like a a 3-year, $100 million deal, 3-year, $90 million, something like that. And so he'll take less this next season, but more of it will be guaranteed, and he'll get 2 extra seasons tacked on top of it, something like that. So it'll be interesting to see where Chris Paul goes. It's going to be interesting to see where a lot of these guys go. And there's some, Mike Conley is a free agent. He's expected to stay with the Jazz and sign a 3-year, $60 million deal. I like that. I know that we need to mix things up if we want to get out of the second round. Conley was a guy, though, that was kind of hurt. He's a leader. He's a defender. I know I've done podcasts before where I said I wouldn't mind seeing him go and bring in like a Spencer Dinwiddie. I'm not backing off of that statement, but I wouldn't mind seeing Conley stay either. He's a solid piece. 3 years, $60 million. That seems pretty legit. There's all sorts of talk around the Lakers now. Who are they going to get next? They just signed Russell Westbrook, and obviously we've talked a lot about that. Are they better with him? Are they not? Now there's talk, is DeMar DeRozan going to go there? Is he willing to take way less to still go there, even though they're not going to get Kyle Lowry, it doesn't look like. There's really no need. They've got Westbrook. But DeRozan can't shoot the 3 either, so do the Lakers even want him? That's a big thought I've been having. Now there's talk, is DeMar DeRozan going to go with Kyle Lowry to the Miami Heat? That's a hot destination. No state income tax. Florida's very open when it comes to COVID restrictions, things like that. It's a beautiful city. It's happening. It's great weather year-round. A lot of appeal there. So much going on right now in the NBA. So much going on. So sticking with DeMar DeRozan for a minute and the Lakers, because there's a lot around the Lakers. Carmelo Anthony might go to the Lakers. Andre Iguodala might go to the Lakers. DeMar DeRozan might go to the Lakers. Will any of these players really make the Lakers that much better? The Lakers right now are lacking one. They have one glaring flaw, and that is their three-point shooting. It's been bad for the last couple of seasons, and they've done nothing to improve it. The Buddy Hield talk seems to have just disappeared because they used a lot of those pieces to get Russell Westbrook. Westbrook is a guy who's going to give you everything he's got night in and night out. I really think that LeBron James had a huge part in this. I think in his mind, he's thinking, if I had had a Russell Westbrook at my side these last playoffs when AD went down, we still could have got it done. I just needed one more guy to take some of the load off of me, and we could have got it done. But AD's not reliable. He's always injured. As Charles Barkley calls him, he's street clothes. Anthony Street Clothes Davis. So I think that LeBron played a huge part in that. There's all the reports now that Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Russell Westbrook all got together at LeBron's house and talked this out. I like Russell Westbrook. I do. He's a team player. He's a stat monster, but that doesn't mean he's all about his stats. I just don't buy into that. You don't average a triple-double for 4 different seasons if you're not a team player. He is killing people in assists. I know there's the joke, he's the only player I've ever seen make an assist look selfish. No, he's getting rebounds and getting assists. Those are hustle plays. Those are teammate plays. His shot selection can be poor at times. He's not a good outside shooter. We get all that. But I like the guy. I think he makes the Lakers better. DeRozan would be that just is another mid-range guy. He can't really shoot the 3 either. I don't know that he makes them all that much better. And he's very open about taking way less to go there. But we'll see if he ends up there or if he ends up in Miami with Kyle Lowry. Another interesting guy would be Carmelo Anthony to the Lakers. Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James are very close friends. I'm sure LeBron would love to see Carmelo Anthony get a title. Carmelo Anthony can shoot the 3. He is an outside threat, especially if left open. You can't just leave him sitting on the perimeter. He will hit those 3s. And so that could be a good fit, and he'd probably get veteran minimum, maybe a little bit more than the veteran minimum. I don't think a whole lot more. By the way, I just am getting a text right freaking now, and I think George Niang of the Jazz unlikely to re-sign. Nothing really surprising there, but I did just get a text. In fact, my buddy's with him, or got a picture with him. Unlikely to see George Niang re-sign with the Jazz. Good. I like George. I've met him a couple times. Very nice guy. Not the greatest basketball player. Maybe that's a guy the Lakers should go pick up. A guy that can just sit on that three-point line and be a huge threat to drill 3s, because that's what Niang is really, really good at. He's one of the best in the league at just hitting the open 3. But the Jazz have too many guys like that. We need athleticism. I wish the Jazz could get Russell Westbrook and give up, a guy like George Niang. Not that that's a fair trade, but because the Lakers have athleticism and no shooting. The Jazz have a bunch of shooting and no athleticism. So maybe they should work something out. But okay, so sticking with this whole Lakers thing, right? So the Lakers now have Russell Westbrook with LeBron James as his teammate. Well, what's interesting is you have in the East, you have Kevin Durant with Kyrie Irving as his teammate. They literally just traded places. The two superstars, well, they're all superstars, but the two alphas, LeBron and KD, had Russell Westbrook and Kyrie Irving as their teammates, and then they just traded them across. So now Kyrie went from playing with LeBron to playing with KD, and Russell Westbrook went from playing with KD to playing with LeBron. So there's a lot of pressure on both of these guys to get a title first as teammates, because all of them are thinking, I got to prove I'm the better Batman. I got to prove I'm the better Robin. I got to prove that it was KD's fault that we didn't win one in OKC. And he's thinking, I got to prove it was Russell's fault we didn't win one in OKC. LeBron's already got one post Kyrie, but Kyrie's got to be thinking, I got to get one before LeBron gets another one. A lot of interesting stuff there. We're clearly on a collision course for Lakers-Nets. We thought that last year. We didn't get it. Bucks get it done. You got to think it's going to happen this year, though. Barring major injuries, which is what we did have last year, with a lot of freaking injuries to both those teams. Literally all three of the Nets superstars, KD, Harden, and Kyrie, all went down with injuries. LeBron and AD both went down with injuries. AD's lingered all throughout the playoffs. That's why we didn't get Lakers-Nets, was injuries. So unless that happens again, freakishly, we're going to have Lakers and Nets this next season. And I hope we do, because all of these guys are getting towards the end of their careers, but they're still in their primes. I would love to see it. It would be so much fun. So keep an eye on that. And also, I had a note here. Do you think that's why Westbrook wanted to be with the Lakers? I mean, I get that he is from Los Angeles. It's the Lakers. It's LeBron James. There's a lot of reasons to want to go there. But do you think he wanted to go with LeBron specifically because KD went and got Kyrie? Do you think he wants to prove something even more? Do you think he wanted to be, with the other superstars as a teammate? Because these teams faced off in the NBA Finals already. It was Harden as the sixth man, KD and Westbrook as the superstars. They were all super young, and they went against LeBron in the finals with D-Wade. Kyrie wasn't on that team, but D-Wade was. And LeBron got the better of him. Well, then, obviously, the Warriors went on their rampage. The OKC Thunder started to break up a little bit. So it's just interesting. Is Westbrook doing this out of spite at all? Because he is kind of that way a little bit. Seems to hold grudges a teeny bit, things like that. I don't know. Interesting thing. Okay, moving on to the NFL a teeny bit here. Tyreek Hill is calling out Usain Bolt for a 40-yard dash race. This is kind of a weird phenomenon that's taking place. Like, the thing is, you go to these older, clearly out of their prime, not even out of their prime, retired athletes, but like really good ones, like Floyd Mayweather or Conor McGregor, who's not retired, but he's, out of his prime, and you call them into a different sport that they're not quite suited for, right? Like Conor McGregor is an MMA guy, and so now the Paul brothers are calling him out, trying to get him to come box them. And now you've got Tyreek Hill calling out. Tyreek Hill is in his absolute prime of his life athletically. Usain Bolt is not. He's retired. He's in his mid-30s. He's not the sprinter he once was. He didn't even compete in these Olympics. And now Tyreek's saying, you can't even see me in a 40-yard dash. I think it'd be fun to watch it, but I don't think it proves anything, Tyreek. It literally proves nothing. It proves you're faster than a guy that retired. Cool. I could probably beat Charles Barkley in one-on-one basketball right now. Does that mean I'm a better basketball player than Charles Barkley? No. It means Charles Barkley is old and fat now. Charles Barkley is one of the greatest basketball players of all time, but the dude's like close to 60 years old, and he's extremely out of shape. So I really think I could probably beat him. Hey, of course, he could back me down and get layups every time, but he's not stopping me from getting around him. Okay? So say I go and beat Charles Barkley in a game of one-on-one, or say I beat Bill Russell. Let's take an even different one. I go play Bill Russell, who freaking is 80 years old, can barely walk now. I beat him in one-on-one. Does that prove anything? No, it's so stupid. It proves absolutely nothing. So that's what Tyreek would be proving if he beat Usain Bolt in a 40-yard dash. He'd be like, cool. You raced him in something that is not his true specialty. It's not his real thing. It's your thing, not his. And you did it in your prime, not his. So what does it really prove? There were two advantages to be had in this particular race. You have both of them. So what do you prove by winning? Zero, nothing, nada, zilch. Now, you could make some money. It could be some cool made-for-TV, pay-per-view, I don't know, maybe put it on ESPN Plus or something. That could be kind of fun, but it proves absolutely nothing. And it's kind of interesting to see these guys do it. I don't mind it because it is entertaining, but I just want to make it clear that it is purely entertainment. There is no real athletic proof or accomplishment made here. It's just that you beat him at your thing when he's out of his prime. Big freaking deal. Okay, last thing. This is just, I'm not a huge, I'll talk more about baseball as the playoffs approach, but Max Scherzer plays for my Washington Nationals. I love the Washington Nationals. They're my favorite team. And he just got traded to the Dodgers. The Dodgers are huge favorites to win the World Series now. Max Scherzer is an absolute ace. I'm sad to see the Nationals do that, but had to make mention of that. I think that's all I had for today. I'm looking at my notes real quick here. Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz went down with his injury. Is he any good? Is Carson Wentz going to be good? I'm going to be honest. I'm rooting for Carson Wentz. I don't root for anyone's failure. And I liked watching him with the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl. He had this like MVP caliber season, gets hurt towards the end. Nick Foles comes in, finishes strong, takes them to a Super Bowl championship. So Wentz gets a Super Bowl ring, but we all know and he knows he was sidelined with like a busted up knee when it all happened. He had gotten them to that point, but he wasn't the guy that finished it off. He didn't even finish the regular season, let alone the playoff run. And he's not been the same ever since. And so I feel bad for the guy. I'm excited for him to get this fresh start with the Indianapolis Colts. But now he's out with some foot injury on like his second day of practice. Really sad stuff. But I am rooting for the guy. I want to see him succeed and do well. And he plays a really freaking tough position at quarterback. And once you get your mentals off a little bit at quarterback, you get in your own head, that's when the mistakes just pile up and defenses eat you alive. So I'm rooting for Carson Wentz to get healthy and to do well with the Colts. Okay, that is all the time I have for today. You guys are amazing. Thank you for watching, listening, subscribing. I will see you next time. I am out. Peace.
Thanks for hanging with Simply the Best Sports Take. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and check out STBSportsTake.com. Simply the best in sports.
'Cause we are warriors.